Episode number 452 of the West Tigers podcast, recording on Thursday night, heading into Easter long weekend. And on Monday, the West Tigers take on the Eels. We'll talk about that clash soon. Josh is here, and Nick is here, and Jordan is here. And I'd just like to put out there, boys, that I don't want any Easter eggs this year. So if the Easter Bunny is listening, what I really want is 2 points. Now, the last time we did a podcast, we were feeling quite up and we were feeling really good about that Warriors win. How are we feeling 3 or 4 days out from the Eels clash? Josh, are you feeling confident? Are you getting those butterflies in your stomach, getting a bit anxious?
Look, feeling confident. I think we've been playing really well. I think the Eels, yeah, they've won a game or two, maybe have they won two, maybe one,
Oh,
but their
yeah.
defense has
Two.
been fairly rubbish. And they've got a couple of injuries I saw this week. You check out their side. It doesn't scream NRL styles. So,
Mm.
yeah, feeling very confident coming in.
I've got some stats and a few things which, if you looked at the stats, you'd say like we're pretty looking pretty good. However, like if you look at the Eels form line, Jordan, it's a little bit hard to tell exactly where they're at because they beat the Broncos in that first round. They got past the Dragons in the second round, which they're probably pretty evenly matched kind of teams. And then not so good, of course, against the Panthers. But it's always hard to pick form against teams that are playing against the Panthers because they're just so, well, you know, the terms that we can use for the Panthers, slick, professional. It's hard to know exactly what Eels we're going to face.
Yeah, I want to go into this game confident. I don't know if it's PTSD from all the previous years and everything. I don't think we expected the result and the performance we got against the Warriors. The main thing is I just want us to back it up.
Mm.
I want us to be able to become consistent. I don't want this to be it was a fluke. So the main importance will be to stick to the game plan, play to our strengths. The stat that came out this week that I thought I would never hear about a West Tigers team is that we're conceding the least meters and least post contact meters. That is huge for a team like ours that has, not notoriously been known for defence. And considering how the Warriors started, where I thought we were losing the contact battle in that opening 15 minutes, to still maintain that stat is good. But we need to be on song because it's very rare that Mitch Moses has
Mm.
two shocking games in a row. But at the same point in time, I think he looks like he's carrying an injury. So
Yeah.
we need to exploit him big time.
I heard a report on, or he was asked about is he injured, or maybe he's just getting old and slow. Maybe that's the case. But beware the wounded eel and the wounded Mitch Moses. Nick, when we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about the next 4 weeks. Probably all of us kind of went the Eels game as the most winnable. Like if we want to be pessimistic, I think it's a very important game for. I say this every time I know, but it would be very sweet to get those 2 points with where we're sitting on the table, where we're at, and what we've got coming up.
It's always nice to get 2 points. I think we all know that as West Tigers fans. Doesn't matter who you play, even when you get 2 points when you're up against the bye, it's a fantastic weekend, and the week ahead's always good. But obviously, there's a couple of grudge, I guess, matchups in this game. It's always nice to beat a Mitchell Moses team, especially when he's playing. We've got Talon, he's named on the bench, so I assume he's going to come off the bench at some point, but he'll be up for it this week. Obviously Josh Adokar was with us a long, long time ago, but
Mm.
there's a few familiar faces in that Eels team. But look, we've had some big matches on Easter Mondays over the years, and I've been to a few, a couple memorable, one for good reason. I remember a couple of years ago we beat them, I think, by a point, and then I
Mm.
remember sitting up in the stands at Bankwest for the very first game when Mitchell Moses ran 70 metres and
Yeah.
scored against us, and they put on an absolute mile of
Mm.
points against us too. So, yeah, look, no game's easy. I don't want us to get complacent and a bit worried. Josh, you sounded very confident a minute or so ago talking about how you're feeling, but I don't like, you know, having too much confidence going into any West Tigers game. So, like Jahream Bula says, stay humble.
I haven't seen. Apparently, Adam Dewey's done an interview. I think it was with SEN, and he was talking about how the team needs to not read the headlines to not get caught up in all of that. So I'm putting my hand up to say I didn't watch that interview, but I just saw that headline. And in the didn't watch the interview stakes. The three of you who haven't watched the Jahream Bula interview with Terrell May on the Terrell May podcast, I have watched it. Obviously, the best West Tigers fan here because I give my time to research and all of that. But it's a very good watch or a very good listen, and I do really recommend that all West Tigers fans do watch it. There's a couple of things that come out of it that stand out to me. First of all, it was very interesting that you have an NRL player, in fact, both of them in different moments were actually vulnerable. And it's so rare to see professional sports people, or especially rugby league players, actually being vulnerable, like talking about being scared, being anxious, being nervous, being overawed, all of those things. It wasn't just a, sit there and be tough and macho. It was really quite interesting. He's very modest. He's very humble, Jahream. And Terrell May, everybody may have seen the short little snippet of it. He really stressed how important Jeram Bulla is to the team. And he's important to the team from the perspective of linking the younger players with the older players. Jahream Bula, 23, and Terrell really made the point that sometimes what happens in rugby league teams is that there's a divide. The old guys get sick of the young guys, the young guys get sick of the old guys. But Jahream kind of communicates with both and is a really good link. And he really did go out there and say how sad we would be and how much we don't want to lose you. So it was definitely not the interview that I was expecting, Nick. It was definitely a little bit unusual, but that's what all of Terrell's content is. It's definitely a little bit left of center and a little unusual, but definitely worth a watch.
And I haven't had time yet to get to Terrell's interview with Jahream, but I am looking forward to seeing that. I've seen a few of the shorts that Terrell's put up on his Insta stories, which has been really good. I did notice that he called Jahream the glue of the team, and obviously to be referred to as the glue is, well, it's a sticking point, pardon the pun.
Yeah.
That is obviously very well respected and, and that important to the team, for everything they do, whether it's attack and defense. He's obviously the one at the back, barking orders in defense, and he's also, looping around the back of those attacking plays as well and adding that ball of flair. And it was really good to see Jahream. I thought he was back to playing really good footy last week against the Warriors as well. So really nice to see him hit form. And just quickly, one of the other things Terrell put up in his stories, I've watched it today, about you're talking about them both being raw in that interview. One thing that Benji actually said to Terrell was make sure you vlog after a loss because fans don't want to see your vlogs after a win and that's it. He said they want to see the emotion. They want to see that you're real. So again, really nice to actually hear Benji encouraging Terrell's vlogs, and it's good quality content that Terrell's putting out too. So keep it up, Terrell. Love your work.
Yeah,
I think as a fan, I just preferred there weren't any losses to vlog after, Nick. I don't want to, let's just have all wins.
I think the thing that stands out to me, Jordan, is we're looking at it from this perspective of we don't want to lose him. We're fans. We've seen him come through. But what stood out to me was I reckon this guy's got a lot on his plate making this decision. He said he and his wife want to have a family, they want to buy a house, and I'm not saying the West Tigers aren't going to pay him well, but if he hasn't re-signed, then there must be a lot going on in terms of negotiating and working out your future. It's a massive decision for a 23-year-old to make, I think.
It is like you're talking about. This is going to be, if not his biggest, it'll be his biggest contract to date, but it could be the biggest contract of his career. As you mentioned, he's 23. Most clubs will be looking, anywhere minimum 3-year deal, but anywhere possibly to a 4 to 5. So he'll be nearly 30, just before the age of 30 when this contract comes up. So it is a massive decision. One I understand he wouldn't take lightly, and one that he would want to make sure all options are explored. It doesn't help with the certain manager that he has, but I do not begrudge the guy for holding off and waiting to see exactly what is all on the table, what all the cards are. And at the end of the day, we can also activate, if we're going to pay him $1 million as it is, we can activate that clause and give us a bit of breathing space as it is. I really don't want it to drag out till May, but I think it's going to anyway. But yeah, it is a massive, massive decision. But if he's loved that much and he's going to get paid top money, I don't see any reason on why he'd leave.
Yeah, if we're close, I mean, it seems like he's really connected with the team. It seems like the team is really connected and he's a very important part of it. So if it comes down to money, I think we might have an advantage. But Josh, what we've seen over the last, Well, I know it's a blanket sweeping statement, but in the West Tigers history, typically the longer a contract negotiation's gone on, typically we have often lost out in those.
Yeah, I mean that is our history, and you know the club has hopefully turned a page and things are going better. But as we saw over the Christmas break, I don't think that kind of that helps. We talk about money, we may have an advantage, but also even if we did take up the option, then he's off contract for 2028, and PNG money at $1 million a season is effectively what almost $2 million a season Australian. That gets you a much nicer house without having to pay tax. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm sure that crossed his mind. I'm sure that's crossing the PNG team's mind. So I think that's probably, and I will note his ex-manager is now the recruitment guy for the PNG Chiefs. So, hence my bringing it up. So, look, I think it has dragged on, but also I guess there's options there on both sides. He can't, officially get offers from anyone else until after those options have passed. Or if we take the option and then till after November. So it could be dragging on for another year. Who knows? So
Well,
interesting to see.
it's a perfect time for a fullback to be negotiating a new contract because you've got Tedesco's coming to the end. Clint Gutherson's coming to the end of his career. You've got the two new teams coming in. Everything, all the planets are aligned for this to be a big contract. And hey, maybe that's why things are going a little bit slow with it, and we haven't really heard anything. Did anybody fall? Put your hand up and admit it. I didn't. Did anybody fall for the April Fool's Day Bulla re-signs on Facebook? Did anybody
My
see
wife
it?
did.
Yeah.
My wife did. Yeah, she messaged me going, "Did you see this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And did you see the date? And she's like, "Oh."
Yeah,
It's
yes.
like, yeah. So yes, no, my wife fell for it, hook, line, and sinker.
Yep. Yep. It was just too good to pass up that one. Whoever did that, very clever. On a positive note for the club, Starford To'a coming back in New South Wales Cup. Nick, the centre issue, hopefully, fingers crossed, is maybe after this week a little bit more resolved. And I think we're probably about 2 weeks away from Terrell May as well. So it'd be good to see Starford back in action, albeit in New South Wales Cup.
Yeah, I think I read today that Taylor and Jahream, I think both due back. Was it round? Is it
Round
round
eight.
eight? Round
Yeah,
eight?
round
Yeah.
eight.
That's
Yep.
the Raiders. Yeah.
At the same time, which is great. Great to see Starford names this week in Cup. Hopefully he gets through that completely unscathed, and hopefully he looks dangerous too. So, we've spoken about how good Starford is at his best, and we need him at his best. I think it's when you look at our backline, to be missing Taylor May and Starford for pretty much the whole 4 rounds so far, or 4 games or 3 games that we've played, like that's massive. And you've pushed Matt Cassini, back in from wing to centre, and I know he's played a bit of centre, but he's only 18 years old. Luke Lalali probably wouldn't be there if we didn't have to reshuffle. So it's amazing, to be honest, how good our defence has been to the start of the season, considering that we've had those shuffles out wide. Last week showed that as well. Actually, every week we've seen to leak points early, but we've seen to sort of steady the ship and keep it quite tight, which has been really encouraging to see. But I think with the stability of bringing To'a and Taylor back into the team, if you can get Matt Cassini back out into the wing and put Taruva back on the wing on the other side, I think that balances out our backline a little bit more. And I actually think it strengthens us a bit more out wide in terms of defence as well as attack. So I don't want to get too excited. I've said this before. I hate getting too excited because we are West Tigers, but there's a hell of a lot of positives that I'm already taken out of a few weeks of footy. So, yeah, interesting the next few weeks when we get a few cattle back.
Well, there is the potential there that we're going to have actual competition for spots in the back line because Josh, in the off season, everybody had penciled in exactly the same back line, but now you kind of look at it and go, there's a few different ways you could name that team. There's a few different options there. I mean, Tino Tavano got selected once again, really good on debut. Hopefully has a good game on Monday against Parramatta. Options are a good thing, and maybe Starford and Taylor might not just absolutely putting my optimist hat on here and going for best case scenario, but maybe they might not walk straight back into first grade.
I think they probably do, but what I think you've got that we didn't expect in the off season is that you've got depth and you've got guys who can come in and perform well in an NRL level. You probably see Tavana and Luke drop back to the reserve grade, but they've played really well. They've shown they've got advantages. Between now and then, at least one of them will get another 3 or 4 games because it's still round 8 is still a few weeks away. I think that really builds their abilities and their time on the field too. And so I think that gives you even better depth. So even if the player was good in one game, giving them 5 or 6 games. And for these kids coming through, that's probably the right amount of games to kind of get some experience and then go back and play some cup. Sometimes you don't always have that opportunity, but if it works like that, it's probably actually really good for them as the season goes on. Obviously, Luke's going to Perth next year, so I don't want him to develop too much, but if it helps for this year, that's great.
That right side, Jordan, we were all really looking forward to seeing the left side in action this year with Samwala and Luai and Terrell May and Makasini on the end of that. But the right edge has been so impressive, especially against the Warriors, like Kai Pierce-Paul, Dewey in defence, Dewey in attack, Taruva filling in the centres, and it's actually looked our more lethal side.
Yeah, the thing that a lot of people recognised and some people didn't recognise, especially with Jock Madden coming in, like the gaps and stuff that Dewey was finding was all because of how much Madden and even Seafarth leading into that try towards the end of the game is how much they straighten up the attack. Like they come through and they like you freeze frame it. So I actually showed my son because he's a halfback in footy. And I showed him and I wanted to go, what do you see here? What has Jock Madden managed to accomplish here?
Yeah.
And he's like, he sucked in 3 defenders. I'm like, is he going to break through them? He's like, no. He's like, no, exactly right. But he's managed to tie up 3 defenders in one play, which just gave Dewey all the space in the world. And the biggest thing I think with that edge that we're seeing, but we're not actually hearing it, will be Taruva's talk. Taruva's talk in centre and his defensive ability in centre has probably stopped there being any real massive leak of points or the fact that it's actually solidified that edge. Because his talk, especially if the ground, if you're close to the field and he's around, he doesn't shut up. He talks and talks and talks, and he's got this person, he's got this person. So that edge is really enjoyable to watch. I don't agree that maybe Starford walks straight back into the team. Like, I'm really happy to see these come back in Cup. Previous years, we would have just chucked him straight back into first grade. So I'm glad he's actually coming back through Cup. I think he needs to probably spend at least 2-3 weeks there to get some Ks in his legs, get some air in his lungs, and actually find that he's kind of over these injuries concerns. And while the players who are currently in first grade are doing the job, I don't think he forces his way straight back in.
Especially if we win. If we beat the Eels, how do you change a winning squad?
And there's no injuries. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
There's a little bit of pessimism around on the West Tigers podcast forum for the Eels clash. Dirty Reds, he said Eels by 13 plus, saying they're down on confidence. We have plenty, danger. Warning, warning, warning. And Oz Luke H said, regular as clockwork, they will put on a good one against us. And it's hard to sort of get past those memories and the ghosts of the past. Last year, we beat them once. 32-6, that was in March, but lost 38-22 in April, which is again goes against, it's hard to know that form line as well. We've conceded 50 points so far in 2026. They have conceded 152, so they've conceded 102 more points.
Just on that, Joel, I think you missed it at the start of the pod. They played Melbourne in round 1, so they got hammered by Melbourne, and they got well and truly pumped by Penrith. So probably the best. Round 2.
Round 2, Brisbane. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Melbourne put 50 points on them in round 1. So they've played Melbourne and Penrith, which are, they're probably going to be thereabouts at the end of the season again. So just to highlight, a bit of an asterisk there. I know they beat the Dragons and they beat who else? And the Broncos. Who probably started a bit off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still a bit cautious what Parramatta will get. But sorry, continue.
No, let's go. My last point was we're scoring an average of 30, them 23. Defence wins games, Jordan, doesn't it? And as much as we talk about, Jock Madden poking his head through the line and Dewey playing well and all this, that and the other, we're going to have to defend like we've done the last couple of weeks.
Definitely. Defense always wins games. Teams can't win if they can't score points. It's an attitude everyone should have from junior level all the way to senior grade. You've got to be able to defend errors, mistakes. You've got to be able to defend those moments on your line when you are feeling fatigued and tired as well. Because you win on the back of defense. You can turn defense into attack. We saw that with a couple of times when I think it was either Samuelo or Sione made a hit and dislodged the ball. That really killed a lot of the Warriors' momentum. And, it's just having those moments, those little moments that you can win, and especially in defense. And if you make your intention clear in defense, attack for the opposition starts to wane away. Because the more and more you can turn them away, the more and more they get desperate and they start to go away from all the work that they've been training. And that is the whole thing. And that's why a lot of our game plan this week should be targeting sort of kind of that 3/4 in between the second row and the halves and really make Pezzett and Moses work defensively. And also make sure that whenever they have the ball, we have someone in their face.
Yeah, 100%. Cut down all their time. Josh, starting games very slowly is proven over the last 2 weeks. I know we didn't beat South, but we're probably the better team for the next 60 minutes. Albeit a little bit of their class got them home. You run a risk of having a slow start in that a game will get away from you one day. Like if there's another thing that Benji has to have been on them this week, it has to be starting better than we have last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think that probably helps. After 2 bad starts, that will have been a real focus this week. We've had, 8 or 9 days by the time the game starts this week. So it's a long kind of run up to that. I also think, young guys, the pressure's on in those first 10, 15 minutes, and that probably has an effect. I don't think the Eels are as good a side and their backline's not as good as kind of the South's back line where you were, having Latrell and Jack White and then those kind of guys running at your young kids. I don't see the Eels having that. They've obviously got Moses and that's the big danger, but I think we'll come out stronger. I look at that Eels side too. They're missing their fullback. They've got a new fullback in for this week. That's going to disrupt their defense. Their pack is, looks fairly well like a reserve grade pack with Junior Paulo joining. So, I think we have shown in our defence, across the match that we can hold teams out. I think our attack has been good. Even in the South's game, I thought South played really well, and our defence, our attack kind of had some moments, but in the other 2 games has been really strong. Look, you don't want to start slow, and hopefully they have been working on that all week. But I think they'll come out and start strong, and our fitness will tell as the game wears on too. So, but it's just that first 10, 15 minutes, as you said.
Well, I actually think, Nick, that's where the game will be won this week, because I think the Eels are going to come out a million miles an hour pumped up, and if we can hold them and frustrate them and not let them score, or if it's 6-all after 15 minutes or something like that, but I think if we give them a sniff, and we've seen that in the past, and then things start going against us, and they start getting the lucky drop of the ball, bounce of the ball. I think it's really, really vital to be level pegging or have them well and truly contained within 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, completely agree. I think we're starting to see a pattern, although it is only our 4th game, round 5 this week, but we're starting to see a pattern that, which kind of touches on what Jordan was just talking about, where we can kind of start to throw teams off with our defensive efforts. And I know Andrew Webster mentioned that last week after in the post-game press conference with the Warriors, that he said he thought the Warriors started really well, which they did. They were on top of us for about 15, 20 minutes with 10-0 up. And then they sort of went away from their game. And I think a lot of to do with that was the fact that our defense was so stubborn and we kept turning them away, and we eventually started to sway the momentum a little bit our way. And I think that starts to grow frustration in the opposition. So yeah, like you're saying, if we can continue doing that, and I really do think that's the mentality that Benji's worked on over the offseason, is building up a resilience amongst the boys, especially a defensive resilience, that if we can frustrate teams and just get in the grind and, do what we can to keep them away from our line for extended periods, then that'll start to turn a bit our way. So yeah, hopefully we don't continue leaking early points to the opposition. I'd like to think that, like you're saying, if we could be 6-6 or fairly level in the first 15, 20 minutes. It's a bit more of a benchmark. You'd prefer to build your game off rather than being 10 or 12 points down, but there's no reason why we can't do it. So the boys will have a lot of confidence from the way they've come back from deficits the first few weeks, and hopefully we can continue that this week.
Just on the defense, the Tigers actually have the lowest average missed tackle count this season.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Which is an amazing thing that I could never imagine happening. So it feels like we've got a very different, just a very different team out there. Our forwards are just absolutely dominating in defense. So, yeah, it's very un-Tiger-like. It's a strange thing to think and feel as a Tigers fan that we have good defense.
Well,
sorry, Joel. I was just going to say the other thing that's un-Tiger-like is the depth in our forward pack. And you look at the bench. I know we'll get a bit more into the team, but you look at how this week Tristan Hope's dropped out and Bunty's come in. That just adds extra punch, off the bench. And there's really no weakness in our prop rotation, is there? Like you bring Polly and maybe Terrell for a spell, and you're putting Bunty on or Royce on or Sione on. They're all running just as hard as each other. Like it's really impressive.
Well, Sione is such a good all-rounder. Like he tidies up the ruck just like Seyfarth does. So you've got two guys that come in and batten down the hatches, but you've got two guys there that are impact players as well, which I really like. We'll circle back around to the bench. I wanted to talk about the consistency of the team. The starting team, Jordan, copy-paste from last week. And I think that's so unlike the West Tigers. Like so often we're chopping and changing and there isn't that stability. That's one reason why I feel a little bit more confident is that it's just the same team.
100%. You look at statistics for the last 10, 15 years of the NRL, the top four always consists of teams that use the least players. When you have that least disruption, you've got connection, you've got the combinations are building throughout the entire year. The less players you use, the better.
Yeah.
And that is a great thing to see. Like, I think we were surprised to see Tavana come in, but in the end, he did his job. And it's great to see that the forward pack is staying consistent. I think if we actually keep that forward pack consistent for the entire season, that will set us up because the likes of Samuela and KPP out wide, they pose a threat. Even if they don't get the ball, they pose a threat because it puts the doubt in that defender's mind going, are they getting the ball? Are they going out the back? Just purely from their running style and their size, it's off-putting. All you need is a second's worth of hesitation in a defender, and all of a sudden the space just pops up out of nowhere. But consistency is great, and it is something that once May and Luai, I'm just curious, and it's probably a really foresight opinion at the moment, but what if we're doing really, really well with Madden and Dewey and then Luai comes back?
What if, yes, we touched on that on the last edition of the pod, and I don't think anybody's got an answer for that. Like, let's say that we win touch wood and all of that stuff. Let's say we win every game between now and Luai coming back. Do you change that winning combination, Josh?
Yes.
You
yes,
do?
Of course you do. Jeram Bulla is a state of origin player. He's our captain. He's our $1 million man. And he was fantastic in round one. Of course you do.
In the bye.
Yeah, look, well, round two then.
Yeah.
Jock's playing well. I hope he keeps playing well. I hope we win every game till Jahream returns by 40. And despite that, you'd put Jahream straight back in with Adam Dewey. I think, a backup half doing it for a few weeks is also different to trying to do it for a full season. But yeah, so I hope he plays great. I hope he dominates. But Jahream Luai still comes straight back in as soon as he's fit.
Sorry, Jock, you're a placeholder. Nick?
Yeah.
What's your thought?
Yeah, look, contentious, and I know I've had a couple of online conversations with people. I would actually, if Madden's killing it, I'd have Madden and Luai in the halves. I'd put AD at 13. He can still
Totally
roam
agree.
around. He can still do his thing. He can still run out wide if you see something. He's a ball player. Then I'd move Twally back into the prop rotation. Twally can still do exactly what he's doing in a prop rotation. And then you got the benefit of an extra playmaker out the back, and you've still got Latu at 14 to bring on and swap out with whoever might need a spell or gets injured or whatever. But I would have AD out the back. I'd have Madden and Luai in the halves, assuming Madden's killing it.
Yeah, it's a very hard one, isn't it? Because you could also start the way things are and then make that change 20 minutes in, move Twal out of lock and move Dewey there and bring Madden on. I don't know. It's really hard. Hopefully, it's a problem that we do have. Hopefully, it's something which. And what a difference rugby league is. Like 2 weeks ago, it was kind of like, who's going to play in the halves? And now we're like, we've got too many halves.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know, Nick.
I know he was great last week. He was. But how good was Madden? Hadn't played all season. He was good in the trials that we saw, but they were trials. He walked into that team last week and owned it. And I know I saw some of the YouTube clip or the YouTube video that the club put out during the week that was leading into that Warriors game. And Benji was addressing the new players that were coming in and saying, just because these guys are filling in doesn't mean that they're fill-ins. Like these guys have their own skill sets. Jock is a playmaker. He's coming in. He's going to run the team because that's what he's good at. He's got a great kicking game. You know what? That's exactly what Jock did. He was so good, and I hope he backs that up.
They underestimate the importance of that kick, the one that Samuela chased.
Yep.
Like when the Warriors started getting back on top, he turned them around and we pushed them back into the corner, into their field, and we made them work. The importance of that kick is so understated. It was exactly what was needed at the time, and it was exactly what kept our momentum in the game from being taken away.
Yep. Which goes to, some of my philosophy, which is that any team that's going to win a premiership has to have a settled squad, minimal chopping and changing through the year, and a controlling halfback. I think they're the basic ingredients for success, Josh.
Weren't you just talking about moving Dewey to lock and moving
I'm not
Twal
saying
to
that's
prop,
what I would do.
and
I'm
then...
saying that's an option. It's an option.
Love it.
I didn't actually have an opinion as to what's going to happen because I think it's too early to have an opinion about what's going to happen. But it would be very hard if Madden continues to play like that to not find a spot for him somewhere. I'm not completely sold on Dewey at lock myself.
Can I just add to that before we move to the next topic? With Madden coming in, I think he controlled our team and our attack a lot better than what we've controlled any game so far. We've only played a few games, but I think he looks like a better organising half than we've seen from Luai's been good. But if you include the kicking game, which was purely Madden the other night, I think he's been the best halfback, even though he wore a 6. I think he's been the best halfback that we've had this year.
Well, if you look at the West Tigers when we've had success, Robert Louis and Scott Prince.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love Louis.
You can draw the line and the connection between having a decent controlling halfback with a good kicking game and success. And if you look at West Tigers at our worst, when we didn't have that and we're running around like headless chicken, then it doesn't take a whole lot to join those dots together as to how I feel about it. I want us to have a controlling half. Doesn't mean I don't like Jahream Bula. I do, but his position. And what I also liked about Madden is he was on both sides, whereas I still think Luai struggles a bit getting over there to the right and mixing it up a little bit. Which leads us into another one, which is what is going to be the career of Latu Fainu? What is going to be his trajectory through his career? Is he going to be an impact player? Is he going to grab a 6 jersey somewhere? What is going to happen with him, do you think?
That's a real tough one out of everything. Like I really wanted him to be the 7 this year. I actually wanted it to be Luai and Latu to start the year, and obviously he had the disrupted preseason with injury. It's really hard to answer just based on the injuries that he's had. He's got to get some consistent football in. I don't like the idea of him playing hooker. I think he's wasted as a 14 if he's just purely as a backup hooker option.
Yeah.
I like when they play him in the middle of the field. He creates a very dangerous a threat with his running game and his ability to sort of kind of move the forward pack around. But then he's also extremely defensively sound. Like he cuts people down. Some of his techniques and tackles when he goes low on bigger opponents is some of the best I've seen. I have absolutely no answer for you on where his future lies. It's a great problem to have. I think he'll be an out-and-out half eventually, but he needs just to get some minutes in his body.
Josh is in a hurry to move the form lock of the competition out of the number 13 jersey and move someone else in. I don't know what you want to do. But what about Latu at lock? Do you think maybe that's a way forward for him, Josh?
I do actually. I think that's his position going forward. I think in the modern game, outside of obviously the elite locks like Isaiah Yeo, who's also big but good passing game, and Alex Twal, who's also big and a good
Mm.
passing game. So probably the two elite locks in the comp. Outside of those, you're getting a lot more of these smaller ball playing kind of utility players in that lock position. And I think Latu's got the defense. I also think he's only 20. He's probably going to get a little bit bigger and a little bit
Mm.
stronger over the next couple of years. So I think that 14 spot, for a 20-year-old for the next couple of seasons is totally fine. And then it'll be kind of, Luai's 5-year contract will be towards its end. Then you can kind of say, is he a lock or is he a 5'8"?
Mm.
He's only young. I don't think we need to rush him into a starting position. He hasn't played, it's very rarely has he managed to make 80 minutes in a game without
Yeah.
getting injured. So
Yeah.
I think he needs a couple of years of probably bench playing, getting 30 minutes, coming in and filling in.
Mm.
I probably expected coming into the year, if one of the halves was injured and he'd been fit, he was probably first cab off the rank, but Jock's kind of shown that he's the first cab off the rank there. I think lock is his position. That's where I think that a bench player, bit of utility lock, very much in maybe the Kurt Mann, Connor Watson
Yeah,
kind
that's what I
of
was thinking.
role
Mm.
is where I think his future might lay. So,
Mm.
He's not far off a Dylan Walker type
yeah,
Mm.
player, to be honest,
Agree.
who's a really good link player.
Yep.
And that worries me a little bit too. I watched the highlights of the Parra game
Mm.
from last week, and that Moses one side, Walker in the middle, and who was it, Pezzett out the other side. Like they created a few opportunities. So
Mm.
yeah, very similar style to Dylan, I think.
He's the sort of player that troubles us as well sometimes, Dylan Walker.
Yep.
What about this bench? I think this is one of the best benches that West Tigers have ever named, albeit we don't normally have 6 players there. But Latu, Sione, Royce Hunt, Alex Seyfarth, Bunty Afoa, and Jarrell Skelton. I mean, that's a pretty powerful bench, Jordan. Sometimes I look at our bench and go, "Oh, geez, I'm worried." This week it's kind of like, let's get those guys on. They're all, they've maybe not so much Seyfarth, but he does his job. But I really like that bench.
I'll put my hand up. I'm the president and executive of the Seafarth fan club. I love Alex Seafarth.
And a lone member.
I will be the lone member. I don't mind. I've always had a big soft spot for him for his effort areas.
Yeah.
He is an all out effort player. Yes, he has a brain snap here and there. But I'm a massive fan of Alex. I think he's one of those type of players you need in your team. But yes, the bench looks fantastic. There's a lot of punch, there's a lot of ability in there. Sione is proving to be one of the out and out best bench players at the moment.
Yeah.
And it just excites me to see what he could potentially achieve. There are a few who watched the Fainu brothers as they were younger, and they all thought Sione was the better player. Just for his versatility and just his aggressiveness. Like he goes after the game. Like there were a couple of hits against the Warriors that it was like that old McDonald's ad, that kid over there in the corner stole your Happy Meal and he just went after him.
Yep.
But I think it's also got to go credit to Benji for the use of his bench rotation.
Yep.
Giving May less minutes, using Pole at certain points of the game, bringing Royce Hunt on in that sort of kind of last 15 minutes of the first half has been exceptional. Like he caused a lot of problem, and you've got tired forwards, and then you look up and you've got a fridge with legs coming at you. Like, what are you meant to do? It's great use of the bench so far, and I'm excited to see how we can use it going forward.
Jordan, just one question for you. What's your go-to with the Happy Meal? Is it a toy or a book?
Definitely a toy.
What?
Definitely a toy. Trying to collect the Mario ones at the moment.
Thank you.
No worries.
It's interesting. We talk about Benji and giving Benji credit. What about the credit that he doesn't get and I'm sure it's not just Benji. There's other people in the club that would take some credit. We don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but he got criticised last year for not being able to develop players. But look at Sione Fainu, Josh. He was a guy that was running around in reserve grade a couple of years ago, and most of us thought he was the sort of the plotter of the Fainu brothers. But his game has come along so far. Look at Twal. Look at a few of these other guys. Pole. They just get better and better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and then it's especially as you said, some of those guys who probably weren't progressing, like Sione Fainu, Alex Twal, his game's improved at the age of 28. Like that just doesn't happen. Royce Hunt, it's not so much the skills have improved, but he's actually got Royce Hunt fit, which
Yeah.
no one ever managed to do at the Sharks. He was still
Correct.
unfit then.
Yeah.
And so I think Benji deserves a lot of credit. And as you said, there are some others, but Benji brought in his own staff. Benji kind of chose the guys who are in there too and drive that whole system. So he deserves a huge amount of credit. I think we've seen, even as we were talking about Jock Madden before, he's come to the Tigers this offseason. He came out and played great. Some of the kids in the back line have really shone. Adam has, been able to perform in a few positions after three ACLs. Benji deserved lots of credit, and it's some of these guys aren't your typical guys who put everything. Terrell May must be an unusual guy to handle. I mean, the Roosters moved him on for that reason, but Benji's been able to get the best out of him. So no, I think it's obviously taken him a couple of years, and as expected, although I do see behind me that Kieran Foran in his first game is up 52-10 over the Dolphins. So,
right.
so perhaps that straight from playing to coaching that Benji and now Foran have done, perhaps that's the future of footy. But yeah, I think Benji deserves a lot of credit for that. And there's a bunch of guys kind of on the edge, reserve grade kind of side. Like, as I said, watching the reserve grade last week, Tony Suka has been playing immense in reserve grade, and obviously he's not going to get a starting spot over Sam Weller or Kai Pearce-Paul, but it's again players who are playing better than they were and developing. We talked about being a development club for a lot of years. Maybe we're actually doing that now somewhat, which is great to see.
Exactly.
I think it might have been Uppy during the week in one of the clips I saw mentioned that he actually questioned. He said, I don't know what's happened to Twally over the off-season, but he just keeps getting better and better, which he does.
Yeah.
Just speaking about Madden again quickly, I know Declan in our chat during the week said, it might have been during the game last week, said, Jock Madden is the new Adam Reynolds. And maybe a lot of the way Reynolds played it when he was up there at the Broncos has rubbed off on him. Maybe he's learnt bits and pieces around game management and his kicking game. Because that was a different Jock that we saw last week compared to a few years ago when he was at the club. So
yeah. He's similar stature too, and it's how deep he is willing to dig into the line. Like, if you are going to be that type of halfback, you're going to have to be willing to take a shot. And Adam Reynolds has always been that player that has copped it and taken that shot. And he likes to dig into the line, but it just gives you so much more space. But just on the development thing you're saying with Benji, with credit in relation to that, it's not just a coach that develops players. You need a team to develop it, and it's the environment.
Yes.
And you need players to be able to have the ability to develop with a coach, but also with the players around them. And when you put good players around medium players or players with potential, they start to lift. I see it in everything that I've done with rugby league and with baseball. There are times that I will have to put kids into that more developed kids into prime positions to drag the rest of the team with them, because they see what the job is to do, and then everyone else follows. And that's what he's also created. He's created a team environment for players who we thought might be, have reached their ceiling, develop. And that's what I think we're seeing with Twal. He's in an environment now where he can show exactly what he's capable of.
Also, if you're going to be a development club, you have to have patience, and that's one thing the West Tigers have never really been known for. It's quicker sugar hit. We need a sugar hit. We can't be patient. You need to be patient. You need to you've got to find a way to be good enough to allow guys to come in and play 50 games and learn first grade and not be carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. And hopefully that's where the club is heading, and that's what this early season revival is all about. I've also got to say, what is really great to see is I'm starting to see people out there in the real world wearing West Tigers gear. Which is not just you guys, but people in shopping centres, walking down the street. Actually, there's a bit of a resurgence of West Tigers fans, which is really, really good to see.
The shame is going away. That's the thing. People feel comfortable.
The shame.
Yeah.
The only shame left, though, out of the four of us, is you're still wearing a Bryden's Lawyers badged vest there.
Yes, but he's got a personal sponsorship with
Yeah.
Josh
How's Uncle Lee? Is he good?
Josh is his best customer. Yeah. Is that an ambulance I hear? The Eels are slight favourites. Jordan, do they deserve to be slight favourites for this game?
Absolutely not. When they said that on NRL 360 the other night, and even you could even see Braithen Astor looked absolutely gobsmacked. No, I don't think they deserve to be favourites. Like, I think it should be tight. I don't think the market should be, heavily swayed to anybody. But I think it's also still remnants of our past. Is that no one's going to. We've won, so no one's expecting us to win two in a row.
Yeah.
It's more of a case now we've got to prove it, and that's my biggest point. That I want the win for the 2 points and for our club to win, but I want us to win and to keep winning and to show that we can consistently win, and that it isn't just this, flash in the pan type event.
Yeah, 100%.
Just to add quickly on that one, Joel, I did see, and I'm not a gambler at all, but I did see that Parra were favourites. I think that has come in a little bit. And even when I was doing my tips this afternoon on footy tips, Tigers have been the most preferred team out of the tipsters out of this game. So it is interesting how they come up with that. Maybe the home ground thing swaying Parramatta's way, not sure, but we'll blow them off the park this week.
It's not like we've ever played there before, and it's not one of our home grounds. I mean, surely Josh, that would equal itself out, you would think.
Well, that's it. The actual ground is fine for us because we actually is one of our home grounds. Obviously, with these things and with members, there'll be more Eels fans there than there were Tigers fans. But I don't think that makes a giant amount of difference because there'll be a fair few Tigers fans there anyway.
If it was a Tigers home game at Combank, we'd be the favourites.
We'd be the favourites. I think that's probably where it sits.
So the crowd makes a difference.
No.
If it was at Leichhardt, we'd be unpackable favourites.
Certain.
You watch. I think there'll be more Tigers fans there than Parramatta.
Yeah.
If there's not, I wouldn't be surprised if the Tigers fans are a lot more vocal, to be honest.
Well, they were in Gosford.
Yeah.
Mate, well, I was up there at Gosford in the Rabbitohs game. We outnumbered them.
Yep.
Ethan Roberts is also coming back this weekend in Jersey Flegg. So I think he's somebody that we're going to see in first grade this year. What about predictions? The bookies, we've spoken about the Eels as slight favourites. We've spoken about being confident. Nick, you're pretty good with predictions. What's your score prediction in this game?
Am I? Well,
you're pretty good with giving them. I don't say they're accurate.
I'm very good at jumping backwards and forwards. I'll tip us to lose, and then Josh will say we'll win. I'll be okay. We're going to win.
You're in.
I'm going to tip us to win this week. I'm going to only based on current form and trends of what we've seen score wise, but I'm going to say 42-18.
High scoring.
That's fairly close to mine.
Yeah. Josh, you're also going the same way.
48-16 was mine. I think we'll keep the Eels under 20 points because our defense is just too good. But they'll get a couple off the back of Mitch Moses. But I think the Tigers will blow them off the park this Monday. I think looking at our forward pack, it's just too much for the Eels. I think that'll overwhelm them. Backlines are fairly similar, but again, they've got an inexperienced fullback. I think we'll just blow them off the park with our forwards, and they just won't get out of their end and can't make the meters. So I think, and I think our bench. Look, if you look at our bench versus their bench, it's a mismatch. So, I know. I think most of our bench would be starting in there. In fact, I look at it. I think all of our bench would be starting for the Eels this week if they play for the Eels. And I think those kind of middle 40 minutes, we will blow them off the park. So yeah,
they averaged that 23 points, Jordan. So I think if we can keep them to 22, 24 points, I think we'll probably got more points than that in us.
Oh, we definitely have more points. And as Nick has dubbed my predictions as Jordan's shit predictions. As I said, I want to go into this game confident. I didn't go into the Warriors game confident at all, and they surprised me there. I'm not going to go into the 40-point margin, but I think we will grind them down and we'll probably walk away with something like a 28-10 or a 28-6 win.
I just had 28-6 in my mind at the same time. Yeah, 28-6 is what I'm going to go. If we're a genuine fair income football team, we've got to win this game. There's just no ifs and buts about it. There's no excuses. You've got to go out there. You've got nothing against you. Yes, we don't have the home ground advantage, but we've got everything else going our way. It's a really, really important game, I think, for the club and for the team. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident. It's going to come back and haunt me. Hopefully, episode 453 is a post-victory edition of the podcast. I just want to mention as well, a bit of news around Gaming New South Wales, again, investigating the debenture system at the Holman Barnes Group. This is looking at whether the Ashfield club's compliant with the Registered Club Act. It was previously found to be lawful but they had that coup last year, and apparently that's put the spotlight on them again, in particular that debenture system. I guess I just want to make the point once again. I don't care how they run their club or what it is, but the problem that we've all got, I think, speaking for all of us as fans, is that there's a system there that provides a situation where there are people who don't necessarily have the right skills to have positions of power over our football team and over our football club. And that's what irks us as fans. We don't care if it's a West thing or whatever it is or how they run the club. The problem is that when those people through this system manage to pull the strings of the West Tigers Football Club, that's why we get upset. So hopefully this will all be resolved in the future and we don't have to talk about this ever again. Any input on that, guys, at all?
Just blow it up and start again.
Start again.
Yeah, I think I agree. Look, and as you said, it's really about the skill set. I think that's what matters to me. Like, I don't care. I mean, I think the debenture system, I think it mentioned in the article in the paper that they were the only club still having one in the whole of New South Wales, which probably suggests it's past its time. But I don't really care if it's a debenture system or it's a members choose the board members, Ashfield club members or whatever. It's especially for the Holman Barns. As long as the schnitzels are still good and the beers are cold, I think that's fine by me. But whether it's that or the private ownership, they can all have the wrong people on boards. But whatever the model is, we have to get better people. And I don't think this model allows you to get better people because you can't go and offer a debenture to someone with the right skills to have them on the board. So,
exactly.
you need the right people in these jobs with the right skill sets.
And there are no mechanisms to remove people who are non-performing. And if you're able to maneuver yourself into a position of power, you have an inordinate amount of power over an organisation that's external to the club. And it's definitely not an ideal situation that I hope changes at some point in the future.
That'd be the Danny Burgess rule, is it? You can have no talents at all and still have lots of control over things. So,
1,000%, Josh, 1,000%. All right, boys, thank you very much. I hope you have a great Monday because we have a great day as a football team, and we'll come back on Monday night. No point doing a pod on Sunday night if the game is not till Monday, Nick.
Just quickly, happy Easter to everyone. And while we're here, for all those on YouTube, hope you get your Easter eggs.
Much improved, Nick. Much improved.
Exactly.
Thank you. Awesome.
And for those listening in, Nick has just transformed himself into the Easter Bunny.
Right. Easter Bunny, or is he secretly a Rabbitohs fan trying to undo us all?
Definitely not a Rabbitohs fan. No way in the world.
He's got all his teeth, so he can't.
And a job, So
and
Thank you, boys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.